This is Office Talk with Annette Stepanian. Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Office Talk. If you're listening to this episode when it first aired, we are in the month of June. I don't know where all those months went, but it's June, it's summertime, and it also means it's time for Legal 360 Live. You've probably heard me talking about it over the last few months, and it is finally here. The first session is going to start on June 13, just days away. And if you haven't heard what it's all about, or if you haven't saved your seat yet, you got to go do that right now. I mean, like, right now, you can pause this episode, go to yourlegalbff.com/live and save your seat. Legal 360 Live is something that I've put together. It's a live online summit where I'm going to walk you through the essentials that you need to understand in order to confidently start and grow your business. And so it's all those legal nuggets that you've been kind of hearing about. You've maybe done some research on, but you're super confused or you have no idea what you need to know. And you're like, I've been ignoring this legal stuff for too long. And well, I'm going to break it down for you. It's about 15 years of legal know-how that is in my brain that I've taken and I have digested it for you. I've broken it down and I'm going to present it to you in a way that's going to be fun and is going to be totally practical. No legal theory here, okay? If you are wanting to start a business, okay, I know you guys are out there, but like the legal side of it is really stopping you in your tracks. Or maybe you've been in business for a while, but you've never taken the time to learn about the legal landscape, about what you need to know. You know, maybe you've learned a little here, you've learned a little there, but you've never really seen kind of the big picture, and you want to finally change that in 2018. You want to have that confidence that you understand what a trademark is, you understand what a cease and desist letter is, and when is it the right time to use it. You know what those terms in your contract mean and why they're important. So when a client asks you, why are these terms in the contract? You're going to be like, well, let me tell you why we need to have this term in this contract. Like I said, it's a live online format. We're going to get together over the course of 5 days. Starting on June 13th, I have the schedule up on yourlegalbff.com/live, so you can go in there and check out the schedule. On day one, I'm going to talk about how to set up your business the legal way. So if you haven't started your business and you want to, or maybe you never really set up your business. I've had folks who have done that. They are killing it, making tons of money, but they never set up their business the right way. Okay, we are going to walk through that step by step. It is literally going to be a checklist kind of method of me teaching this to you, okay? The next day, on June 14th, we are going to talk all about contracts. I'm going to talk about the contracts you need for your business, what all those terms are, why they're important, what do you do if you need to make a change to your contract. Then the third session, which is going to be on June 19th, is all about copyrights. If you are creating content, maybe you're a designer, you're a photographer, you're a blogger, you're a writer, you're creating some sort of creative content. And I think we all are nowadays, right? Or you are using other people's content for your business. You gotta understand copyrights, okay? Now we're gonna walk through all of that in that session on June 19th. The next day on June 20th, I'm going to tackle trademarks. Those are your brand names. Those are your logos. If you're really investing in your brand and you want to protect that name, we're going to talk about which names can you protect? Which ones can't you? How do you go about doing this? What happens if you're using somebody else's trademark without their permission, right? We're going to dig into that stuff. And so you can make the right decision for yourself and for your business. And then finally, on the last day, on June 21st, we are digging into hiring your dream team. So if you are planning to hire people, maybe not today, but in the future, whether they are independent contractors or employees, we're going to break it down for you. My favorite part about all of this is the workbook. I am working with Casey of Sugar Studios, and we are working on this amazing jam-packed workbook. And it is literally the workbook I wish I had when I started my business. Okay, because I know when I started my first business, which was, if you know my story, it was a jewelry business. It was so darn confusing, and I didn't know, there was so much conflicting information out there. And I was like, I'm a lawyer and this is confusing, right? I can't imagine how difficult it is for someone who doesn't have the benefit of that legal information or that legal background. So if you haven't seen the sneak peek that I shared a few days ago on Instagram, head on over to my stories, the highlights, click on the one that says Legal 360 Live. I'm showing you the draft of it. And it's insane. It's like we just keep adding more to it. It was meant to be like a 30-page workbook, and I don't know how many pages we're at now, well over 30 pages. And it's literally checklist after checklist after FAQ sections, after you got quizzes in there to make sure that you're on track. It's full of great resources. It's going to be your best friend, and I hope it's going to be a resource that you could turn to time and again as you face legal issues in your business. All of that stuff, you guys, that's what you're getting with Legal 360 Live. And so if you haven't saved your seats, I want to encourage you to do it now, because right now I have early bird tickets for only $347. Okay, that's like less than my hourly rate, which is insane. I don't know what I was thinking. And so if you want to get your seat, lock it in for $347 right now, because in a few days, I'm going to increase that price to the full ticket price of $747. And if you can't make it live, don't worry. You are going to get the recordings of all the presentations. You have access to that. Maybe certain topics aren't relevant to you. Maybe you're like, I'm good with contracts. I really just want to dig in on copyrights and trademarks. Well, you can do that. Attend the sessions that you want, but you can have access to all of that. You can learn more about Legal 360 Live and snag your seat over at yourlegalbff.com/live. I also want to give a huge shout out for those of you who have taken the time and have left a review for me on iTunes. I'm reading it right now. I've got Z who left a review. She said, I love how Annette breaks legal down into easy to understand and digestible pieces. Yes, okay. As a fellow entrepreneur, I love listening to her advice, tips, and expertise. Office Talk is a must for all small business owners. Thank you, Z. Thanks for that virtual high five. And then we have Jay Barshop, who writes, Annette and her guests provide some incredibly actionable and compelling content on how to successfully go from idea to implementation. Highly recommend listening and subscribing to Office Talk if you want the knowledge and mindsets to build the company of your dreams and live your best life as a result. Well, Jay, thank you for those kudos. And if you have enjoyed my past guests, you're going to love today's conversation with Bonnie Christine Forkner. Now, have you ever paid attention to the designs that you see on maybe your bedspread or a pillow or maybe your gift wrapping paper? If you're not a designer, the answer is probably no, I've never paid attention to that. You know, we just kind of like a design, we buy it and we take that product to our homes and we live with it. But I never thought about that there's somebody, it's their job to design those patterns, to design that fabric. And so today, Bonnie Christine Forkner is on, and she is an artist, a fabric designer, a teacher who has made a living doing this. And what I love about her story is that it wasn't something she knew she was going to do as a kid. It was an evolution for her. And today, not only is she making an amazing living licensing her products out, But she also has built an amazing, beautiful community of other folks who are interested in surface pattern design. I think you're going to enjoy this episode regardless of if you're in the design industry or not, but just her story, her perseverance, her quiet determination, as I say in the show, to designing, no pun intended, that life and that business on terms that work for her. So with that said, let's go to the show with Bonnie Christine Forkner. Welcome, Bonnie, to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I am really, really thrilled to have you here. We recently met a few months ago, and I felt like, I don't know, it was like a girl crush on my part when we met, because I just thought you just have your stuff together, but you're also like so warm, so genuine and sweet. And so I definitely wanted you on the show for folks to, if they don't already know you, to learn about you. But why don't you just give us a little background about how you came to where you are today?
I will, and thank you so much for that sweet intro. I felt the same exact way about you, and was so excited to find you. I feel like you're filling just the niche that we all needed filled in the industry, so thanks for doing what you do.
Thanks.
Yeah, so my name is Bonnie. My brand name is Bonnie Christine, and I am a surface pattern designer, which means that I design patterns for products like fabric, stationery, wallpaper, ribbon, iPhone cases, and fun stuff like that. I got my first fabric licensing deal in 2012, and I'm completely self-taught. So I started learning in 2009 was when I started my blog called Going Home to Roost, and really started diving into learning how to become a designer.
I have to be honest, like, I love design, but like you really take for granted, like there has to be somebody who designs the gift wrapping paper you buy or the fabric on your, your bedspread and all that stuff. Like, it's not, in my mind, in the world that I grew up in, it wasn't like an obvious career choice, right? It wasn't on the menu of options. And so I would love to hear how surface pattern design, it's super unique.
Okay, let's get into it. I agree. And I still think that it's kind of it's becoming more well known, but it's still kind of like this secret career. I remember when it really dawned on me that I just couldn't believe it felt like this perfect package of a career that I had always dreamed of. And I teach now. And so I still get this kind of aha moment from students like, wow, this is really a career option. So it came to me really because from the fabric perspective. So my mom is a sewer and quilter, and she has owned a quilt shop for most of my life. And so I grew up kind of in the fabric world and sewing. I went to college for business, and in hindsight, I've kind of grown to appreciate it. But I had a couple of years there where I had graduated with a business degree and then decided that I wanted to really become a fabric designer. And I kicked myself for going to business school. I wish I had gone to design school. Since have really embraced business school because someone told me once, you can make the most beautiful art, but if you don't know how to market it, then you'll never be successful. So I embraced my business degree for the business savvy that it gave me and learned the design part on my own. But I graduated business school, moved back to my hometown, and actually started working for my mom at her quilt shop as basically the product kind of reviewer. I would meet with fabric reps and go over new collections. And this is when it really hit me that I just really wanted to do this. And I had already committed to kind of being in the creative industry. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I started my blog in 2009. And it was just about pretty much anything that I was interested in, a lot of recipes and homesteading and gardening and DIY projects and things like that. So I also had an Etsy shop. I sold handmade aprons and tea towels and pillows. And so those two things I worked at long enough to where I felt like I got an income stable enough for me to quit working at my mom's. And so I went full-time into the creative industry, but I still was not a licensing artist or anything like that. So I decided I wanted to become a fabric designer. I've told this story a lot of times, but 6 months went by And I still just really wanted this. I wanted to be a fabric designer, and nothing had happened over the past 6 months that got me any closer to that. I was just overwhelmed, didn't know how to get from A to Z, thought this goal was so big and so lofty that I just could not ever reach it. Definitely felt like it was just a mountain I could not climb. And this is so simple, but it just dawned on me that in order to accomplish this goal, I needed to start doing one thing every single day in order to get me closer to it. And that it didn't matter if I didn't know what 6 or 8 months down the road I would need to be doing. I just needed to figure out what I needed to do today. So at the time, it was literally Googling like how to become a surface pattern designer, or how to learn. I knew that I needed to learn Adobe Illustrator, and this was back in 2009. There was no information online, no books about surface pattern design. It was really when everyone was holding tight to their industry secrets. There was no Skillshare. There just no information. So I first started out learning Adobe Illustrator, which I now teach. But at the time, opening up this program just felt like a foreign language to me. It was a pretty big learning curve. It took me a year of daily lessons. I learned taking online classes from a couple of guys who were designing like tessellating lizards and robots. And I was trying to like take those skills and make them into flowers or whatever I was working on. It took me a year to learn Illustrator and create my first repeating pattern. And from there, I spent another year, all the while was still kind of blogging and selling on Etsy. This was all kind of behind the scenes. I took another year to create just as much artwork and as many patterns as I possibly could. I was probably in that year, I made over 100 patterns. And this is where my signature style really kind of got solidified. And I feel like that's kind of a big buzzword that everyone is concerned about. They don't know what their signature style is. That means, you know, a recognizable hand to your work. So if someone saw something, they would know you created it, even if your name wasn't on it. And it's important if you want to build a brand, it's important to have this recognizable style. So it was through creating so much work that kind of happened naturally. So I always try to tell people, you know, don't stress out if you don't know what it is. It's through this refining of your work that you'll find it.
Yeah.
So fast forward a little bit, I got to a point to where I work in sets of collections. As a surface pattern designer, I work in collections of about 10 prints at a time. So I got to a point to where I had 3 collections that I thought were, you know, my best work, and I was ready to show to the world. So I took a bookbinding class and learned how to bind my own books because I wanted to build, of course, I wanted to build a portfolio that just felt special. I wanted it to feel like really a direct reflection of my soul and heart that I had poured into my work. So I started making handmade portfolios and sending them to companies. Ultimately, I attended Quilt Market in 2012. This was now 2012. I attended Quilt Market, which is the big industry trade show for fabric and quilt companies. It happens twice a year, and it's closed to the public. It's just open to the trade. But it's really unique because every art director for every fabric company is under one roof at the same time. So I got in touch with them ahead of time, several months ahead of time, and set up appointments to meet with them. And by far the most nerve-wracking experience of my life was strolling into Quilt Market with my little portfolio.
It's intimidating.
So intimidating. But you know what? Every person I've ever spoken to has been so kind and genuine and just eager to see what I had to show them. So it still makes me nervous, but, you know, it's a really kind industry to be a part of. I mean, it's the art industry, you know.
Yeah.
Anyways, fast forward, I got picked up by Art Gallery Fabrics, which was my absolute number one choice. I met with the art director on the second day there, and she just communicated back to me about my artwork in the same way that I really hoped that it had been perceived. We just really understood each other and what we were trying to accomplish as brands, and I've been with them ever since and have my 11th I believe, 11th fabric collection coming out this month.
That's amazing. And I don't know if you remember this, but we were emailing a few weeks ago, and you also make wall stencils. And when we were in the process of renovating, I had actually identified one of your wall stencils, not knowing it was you, to get for, the work we were doing and stuff. And so when then I put two and two together, it's just so funny how the world works sometimes. I was like, you made that?
I love that.
Yeah. So what I take away from that story is just this sense of patience, but this also very quiet determination in my mind, right? I think so many of us, especially when it's it's almost like your second career, right? You went to business, you kind of had this, you studied business, you thought you were going to go down that road, and then now you're kind of making a shift. Where, how did you find that patience of okay, Bonnie, we got to start from square one. I got to learn Adobe Illustrator. I got to learn about this industry where you didn't really have mentors, it sounds like, that were available to you to guide you. Where did that sense of the patience and just the sense of, okay, this will work, whether it's, tomorrow or 3 years from now. Where did that come from? Because I know I need to tap into that every once in a while.
Oh, I love this question. And it's something I like to talk about to my students. So through Skillshare and my own courses, I've taught over 50,000 students surface pattern design.
That's crazy.
A crazy number. It's
That's
a crazy number to say out loud.
A football field, right? I mean, that's like a stadium.
I imagine it's crazy. But this sense of urgency I see over and over and over again. It's this sense of there's a closing window of opportunity and I have to get in there. And I don't know if you can teach this, but I try to communicate that this is a slow process. And you know what? Most successful people, there aren't very many overnight successes, because if you really get to digging, there are years of hard work before the overnight success hit. It's not a fast process. By the time I had a portfolio, I had been working so hard on my blog that I had a laundry list of features that I had on Design Sponge and Young House Love and magazine features, from things that were kind of really unrelated, but they had still been building blocks to my business that I just kind of gradually built on over the years. And so it all kind of worked together. And I think that's probably the thing I see most now, is that people will rush through, they'll learn Illustrator and then they'll rush through and start showing their very first collection when they really don't have a springboard or much wind under their wings. So I try to encourage people to really start their online presence and their brand just as soon as possible. I mean, even if you don't know what you're going to be doing yet, just go ahead and get a head start on all of those things, because, we all start at zero. And the sooner you can start at zero, the quicker you'll start to grow and formulate your audience, which will help you kind of catapult into whatever it is that you want to do down the road. So it is kind of a slow process, but I remember feeling like I have nothing but time. If this takes me 5 or 10 years, I just knew that I wanted it badly enough. And, that process is also probably kind of what weeds out the weak, because it is a slow process. Not a lot of people stick with it. And so that's really where kind of people rise to the top that do have the long-term patience in order to really drill down and work at their big goals. Yeah. But it's possible. That's kind of my message, is that if you want to do something, you have everything you need at your fingertips. I mean, you can learn anything online these days. And so, just start kind of putting your head down and drilling away and making those big dreams closer to a reality.
Well said, my friend. So in terms of monetizing, right? Clearly you've gone the licensing route where you've been able to display your designs on a variety of different products, right? So from, you said, pillows and fabric and wallpaper and ribbons and all that stuff. where are those opportunities for folks who want to get into this industry? Is licensing the kind of the best way to go about things, or are there different options that people can pursue in order to make a living doing this?
So it seems that none of us really do one thing anymore. We all run very complex, multifaceted businesses, and I am right there with it. I know you do the same thing with courses and all kinds of fun things. So I did have kind of a definitive shift in my business, and it had to do with that Etsy shop that I mentioned, where I was making handmade pillows and aprons to sell. And I got to a point to where I literally could not make more. Like, I was making as many as I could, and I was burnt out. And I could also calculate, the most money I could make. Say I can make 12 aprons in a day and I sell all of them. I can quickly calculate, the most money I can make possible, unless I started to outsource and manufacture. And so I started thinking about residual income, or at least, I don't know if it's true residual income, but basically this concept of, making money while you sleep. And so that shifted my entire business. And now I can say that really 100% of what I do is on this concept of selling without any kind of cap, or selling with no ceiling. So the first thing I did was I started my membership, and it's called the Roost Tribe. And I started it in 2012. And I really just sat down and thought, what do I have that is valuable, that it would be worth someone paying to get monthly newsletters? So I send out a newsletter every Friday to the Roost Tribe with content in it. And it started out at $5 a month. It's now $15 a month. But they have still gotten content. It's changed over the years, every Friday since 2012. So my full access members have access to all of those years worth of content. And now it's really more about surface pattern design, but also marketing your creative business. So that was the first time that I really felt like, my workload is generally the same whether I have 5 members or 500 members. And I have about 1,200 members right now. And other than a little bit of email support, my workload is the same. So it's that concept that I ran with. So I did that with my membership. I also do that with teaching. On the platforms that I teach on Skillshare and Creative Live, and also on my own website. And, the workload is really the same whether I'm, if one person has taken my class or 5,000 have taken my class. And licensing is the same concept. So, you create this design and then you license it. And you generally, how licensing works is that you get paid depending on how much sells. So, potentially if something, goes off the charts and just sells globally all over the world, then you really start making a lot of money. You can also license the same pattern. Now I'm talking like generally this, you have to make sure that your contracts are set up this way. But typically, if you license a design in one industry, say the fabric industry, you can take that same design and license it in another industry like wallpaper, and again on wrapping paper, and again in kitchen textiles and things like that. So it's all industry specific. So you can really kind of get the ball rolling. And so that's kind of the same concept as well, is that there's really no cap to your income.
Yeah. That's what I love about copyrights and with designers, is that your designs are so valuable because you can slice it and dice it and monetize it in so many different ways. And so you're creating, like you said, you're spending, X hours creating one product, one design, but then you could create, in theory, all of this residual income for a lifetime, theoretically.
Yeah, exactly.
So you created this shift of, you're like, well, I'm going to start teaching everything that I know. And so, some people like to hold their kind of secret sauce close to their chest and close to their vest because, you're kind of sharing everything out there and in theory creating more competition for yourself, right? What was it that you were like, I don't care. The need for me to educate and inspire others is greater than any fear or concern that someone's going to copy what I do and be more successful than I am.
Yeah.
Or was that not even a thought for you?
Good
I don't know.
question,
Some people need...
well, I get that a lot, even from the companies that I license with. They support what I'm doing, but they're at the same time like, you realize this maybe not is the smartest move. But I think that because of the hardship I had when I was learning, where there was just really no information and everybody just was sitting tight on the knowledge that they did have, it really made me want to give back. It really inspired me to just share what I had learned in a way that was approachable for other people to learn the same thing. And I feel like I was really the pioneer in doing that, starting to share everything that I could. And it doesn't intimidate me because I don't feel like I can teach just that extra thing that you have to have to be successful. You have to have that long-term patience, like you were talking about, in order to really put in the time and effort. I mean, you can't teach someone to put in 60 hours a week when you're new trying to get the ball rolling. So if I can teach the technical aspect and maybe help the learning curve with licensing and, what it really takes in order to be successful, then those are just tools in everyone's tool belt. And then they have to have kind of that extra sauce themselves already to make it. So I have found that really it's been the most rewarding thing I've ever done is to teach and teach openly. And, so far it hasn't, it's only been a positive experience so far. So I absolutely love it. And I never sought out to teach either. In fact, I would have felt like it was very intimidating, but I got approached by Creative Live, I think in 2013, and taught for them in a live format. That class is still available, but it was, when I taught it, it was broadcast live, which was super nerve-wracking. 3-day course. And through that experience, I fell in love with teaching. And so then I went on to teach on Skillshare, and then just recently on my own site with a big course called the Immersion Course. And so it was kind of this unexpected twist to my career that I have just really been delighted with.
It's amazing. And I think like your energy, I think it's just who you are, right? You have this like very kind of nurturing, very calm energy that I know I feel when we've had the chance to talk and connect. And I think you need that when you're teaching, and it's something magnetic, I think, and probably one of the many reasons for your success. So another thing that I've noticed is you are pretty business savvy, and who knows if it's your business background or whatnot, but you are not afraid, it seems like, of the stuff that most, again, I'm generalizing, but a lot of creatives are afraid to deal with, like the numbers and the contracts and the kind of that part of the business, that is so necessary. Yeah. Is that true? Is that a fair perception I have of you?
That's true. I like kind of the detailed side of it, even though it's not my favorite part. I kind of am a numbers, not an accounting kind of person, but like just kind of like I like the strategic part of really being involved and understanding the bolts of my business. So it doesn't come with ease. And I will also just quickly say that a lot of people work with agents. And that's always a big question is, should I work with a licensing agent? And there are mixed reviews, and to each their own. But I never have worked with an agent because I like being involved with the business side of licensing. I like speaking directly to the companies. I like going over the contracts. So for sure, it has never been the easiest thing. And so what I always recommend, and I still do myself, is that anytime I get presented with a licensing contract, to go over it with your lawyer. And if you don't have a lawyer, then Annette, I think that you would offer this kind of thing.
Yeah, whether it's me or someone else, it's always good to get that double checked and kind of having a lawyer's eyes review that for you and explain things that you may not understand.
They love to use language that makes my eyes cross. And so it's a big deal to sign a licensing contract. And, it could mean that you can't license in another country, or, you could be liable if this, that, or the other happens. And so I would say that the contracts I have signed have been relatively, understandable, but I still always go over them with a lawyer just so that I can really make sure what I'm signing at the end of the day has me and my work protected and is set up in the way that I like to work. So for sure, as I've added, people to my plate over the years, and so happy to have recently added you as my go-to lawyer. And then Amy Northard, hasn't she been on the show?
Yep. Yeah.
Amy is my accountant too, and recently brought her on, I think almost 2 years ago now, to take care of my bookkeeping and my accounting. And the two of those combined have really been like the best decision I've ever made for my business. I'm still running like a one-woman show. I don't have like an assistant or, social media strategist or anything like that. But with the addition of a lawyer that I can call on and an accountant to help me with my bookkeeping, I feel like I've really made sure that I have all my ducks in a row. I'm protected where I need to be protected, and I'm being smart with, my finances. So.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big believer in, as a business owner, just as a human being, like, you need to know a little bit about everything. Like, you don't have to be an expert, but like, you have to know enough and educate yourself enough so you can know who to look for, you can know who to hire, you know what questions to ask, and you can always turn to the quote-unquote expert or the person who has made that their life's work to get into the details or do the work for you. But I think those CEOs that I've always looked up to and admired are the ones who aren't afraid to dig into the stuff that maybe they don't love, but they realize it's a foundational piece and they need to understand it. Yeah. And you can find people who are willing or are going to enjoy explaining those things to you so you can understand it. Like, those are my favorite people who are like, well, I want to understand like what this means, and they're just not delegating. They're actually wanting to educate themselves. Wait, so you are a one-woman show? You don't even have, like, you said you don't even have an assistant to like do things for you? You're totally...
I will tell you all the areas that I pursue help in.
Okay.
I've got you and a bookkeeper, and I have a housekeeper that comes twice a month. And I got convinced to hire a housekeeper after listening to a marketing business thing by Lisa Jacobs. She's like a creative marketing genius. And she said, you know what, if you're wondering if you need help, like, hiring business help is tough. And there's a lot of training, and there's also a lot of potential to lose that person or whatever. She said, start with the easiest place that will help you free up some time. And the easiest place is to hire a housekeeper. You'd only need to do like a quick interview. You don't need to do any training. It's not a big deal if they have to leave. And so I thought it sounded great. So I did that. And it's been one of my favorite upgrades this year.
That's hilarious.
And then that's really all. I have 2 small kids. They're 2 and 4. And that's changed, the way my work schedule and business look. But my husband was able to start working from home at the beginning of last year as well. So we have ironed out this kind of tag team schedule where one of us is always on fully with the kids, and while the other one works, and then we kind of switch out depending on the day. And it has, worked. It's worked.
That's amazing. I love it. So I want to hear about all the projects up ahead. I know you have a lot, like you have a workshop coming up, a live workshop. You're renovating an Airstream for cross country. You guys need to follow her on Instagram, because it's the most beautiful thing. And she's like renovating this kind of vintage camper, but it's so beautiful. I can't believe it's like...
Oh. Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us about what's coming up ahead for you.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about the Airstream. It's not business related, but I'm so excited about it. And we're going to be doing like a month-long round country trip later this summer and getting really close to getting it finished. It's a 1961 Airstream that has really already been completely renovated, but I am doing the remodeling. Let's call it remodeling.
Bonifying it.
Wallpaper and the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Bonifying it. Okay, so I've mentioned the Immersion Course a few times. I launched a new course on my site just this year called Surface Pattern Design Immersion, and I feel like it has filled kind of a gaping hole in the industry that I felt like I could fill. And it is a intensive 8-week course on all things surface pattern design from A to Z, completely learn Adobe Illustrator, the art of creating collections, and then how to build a portfolio, start contacting companies. You and Amy came to speak with us on the more kind of legal and accounting sides of it. And then I just have to say, I had the most amazing, supportive group of women. We had 340 some women take it, and they all happen to be women. It's open to men as well, but here all happen to be women. And we have a private Facebook group, and it's just been such an honor to be front row to this group. And they've been so incredibly encouraging and supportive of each other. So much so that I wasn't planning on this, but I'm hosting a retreat for them this fall. Of course, it's only open to this year's immersion students. But anyways, it's an incredible experience to go through. Enrollment will open again in February 2019. Enrollment is open for only like a week and a half every year. So you can go sign up to be notified on my website when that enrollment opens. There's a little place where you can sign up to be notified. And then, the other exciting thing that I have coming up is this October, I am co-hosting a live event in New Orleans in their beautiful botanical gardens. It's a one-day event that is called Answer the Call. And my co-hosts are Lisa Jacobs, who I mentioned. She does marketing creativity, and she's an incredible online marketer guru, and Kara from Boho Berry, and she's like a sensation on Instagram. She's a bullet journalist and artist, and she's really monetized and created a beautiful business herself. So the three of us are going to basically take the entire day to walk through anyone who has this creative call on their heart that they want to answer. What that looks like from a business perspective, what it's looked like for us, and what we've learned over the years in order to kind of pass on to everyone. So we'll have a whole day of lessons and breakout sessions. It's just one day from, I think, 9 to 4, and it's October 4th. That's a Thursday in New Orleans, and tickets are open currently. You can sign up for any of our newsletter lists in order to get the invitation for that. They are open privately to our newsletter list until, I think, June 21st. And then if there are any tickets left, we'll be opening it to like the masses.
Fantastic. Well, I will make sure to link up all of those great opportunities in the show notes. And if you haven't gotten the sense, Bonnie has, I think you have a really good balance of the business and the creative. And I think sometimes people have either one or the other, or they feel like they can't cultivate the one that maybe feels weaker to them. And so, especially with a lot of creatives, right? The business side of things, it scares them. And so it sounds like both of these, course as well as the in-person workshop, it provides that, the meat that you need in order to make your art, or being an artist or a designer, to make that sustainable for you in terms of, income. And so definitely check it out. Check out Bonnie, check out all of her great resources. And if anything, follow her on Instagram because it's so beautiful. I know when it's your picture when it pops up because you're always in these beautiful spaces. So Bonnie, well, thank you so much for being here and for all of the work that you do and for being so open to sharing what you know and so invested in seeing other people's success.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
If you'd like to learn more about Bonnie, you know the drill. You can get all the links to all the resources she mentioned, including her Immersion Course and the Answer the Call live workshop happening in New Orleans, over in the show notes, available at AnnetteStepanian.com/podcast/78. You can also reach out to Bonnie over at bonniechristine.com and via her Instagram handle. It's so beautiful. You guys need to go follow her at Going Home to Roost. That wraps up another episode. I have some really great episodes and interviews coming down the pike. And I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is. I'm going to give you a little cliffhanger here. It has to do with money and confetti. Now chew on that. Okay. Okay, you guys, I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Before you skip to that next episode, I want to invite you to a special event called Legal 360 Live. In this live online summit, we're going to walk through what you need to know, legally speaking, as you start and grow your business. So if you're ready to roll up your polka-dotted sleeves and finally get your legal house in order once and for all, head on over to yourlegalbff.com/live. That's yourlegalbff.com/live.